A Latte Perspective with Kathy Durant and Juliana Tompkins, a mother-daughter podcast.
Hey, this is Dr. Cepeda from Growing Tree Chiropractic. We are a neurologically based chiropractic office in Mooresville, and we love to serve families, babies, kids, pregnant mamas, anybody from diapers to depends. So anytime that you need us, feel free to call us at 980-689-1893.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to A Latte Perspective.
A multi-generational conversation between a mom
And a daughter.
Yes.
Wow, we actually got that pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Episode number 5.
Yes. We've been doing this for a while now. No, not really.
10 weeks.
Seems
but
like it.
It seems like every time we sit here, it's the first time.
I know. My stomach gets a little butterflies being in front of a camera every time.
Yes, wow.
But we were just saying how this year has gone slowly in the beginning. January seems like it's 17 weeks long instead of 4. But then February's flying by. And how we haven't had any, we've had some things going on, but nothing tragic. Nothing like, you know what I mean? Like, things have happened in other people's lives, you know.
Right.
Obviously, but not in ours. Like, I mean, it hasn't been too crazy. We have had some, well, not me, her.
Oh, yes.
My life's boring compared to hers, not gonna lie.
Just to give you a small sample of my life this week, I finally got a me day out of the house, and I was meeting a girlfriend for lunch and then shopping with a girlfriend and then going to an oils class, which I do Young Living oils, and I just started 6 months ago and I needed to learn a lot. So I was going to a class and I was out of the house all day. I wasn't responsible for little people. I wasn't responsible for dinner, for hubbies. I mean, I just had a me day and about
Hubbies? You have more than one?
No, hubby. God, well, yeah.
Man, I mean, I know you had some ups and downs here, but
I have an ex and I have one.
No, I
yeah,
know.
but
I know
so
you mean Uncle Brian, but I was just just hobbies. So I was like,
Yeah. So about 4:15, I get this picture text from my husband of our basement floor, and I really couldn't make out what was in the picture. And so I texted him back. I said, "What is that?" And he said, "Our septic backed up into the basement." And
the brand new septic.
In November, we had our concrete tank collapsed, and so we put in this new super duper. It looks like a plastic submarine. I'm not joking. 1,000-gallon tank into the yard. Had to redo the leach fields. It was a major, overhaul. Something that we weren't planning for. Something we didn't expect. And so the last thing I expected to hear from my husband was the sewer had backed up into the basement. And so I said to him, okay. And he said, yeah, your brother just sent me this picture and I'm leaving work now. And he doesn't usually leave till 6. And I'm going to go home because I'm going to have to fix it. So I asked him if he had contacted the plumber that had put the sewer in. And he goes, no, I can handle it. It's just a clog. It's just a clog. I can snake it. No problem. So about a half hour later, he got home and tried to snake it with his stuff. And I got another text that said, I'm on my way to Lowe's because I need to buy longer snakes because apparently the clog was exactly at the outside wall of the house that went into the new septic system. So when I got home that night, about 10:30, from being out all day having a me day, my husband proceeds to show me pictures and give me blow-by-blow descriptions of how he had to clean up the basement.
Wait. And what part of that conversation? And what part of that conversation did you actually stop listening?
No, I did listen, but you have to understand after 32 years. Yeah, but see, after 32 years, what I realized is that what they truly want is good job, bud. Good job.
Yeah.
You know, like you went.
I wait to the end and I pretend I'm listening, and I would say, "Oh, that's great. That's great." Okay. Like I understand what he's saying. I have no idea, but it was a great story.
So I got a blow by blow description of what went on while I was gone, and I said, and I did do my wifely duties. Good job, babe. That was awesome. You rock it. And I really mean that because there is nothing hardly ever that I hire somebody for. My husband builds furniture. He does carpentry. He does electric. He does plumbing. I mean, I don't.
The same way.
Yeah, I'm so blessed. So he really is rocking it. But at 10:30 at night after being gone all day, I was tired, and I'm really glad that you fixed the problem because I was having my women's fellowship last night and I didn't want to have to cancel because we didn't have a potty. So
Well, that if you were home, you would have been dealing with the whole thing and
right.
stressing out about it. So it was good to not be home
I love
during
the
it.
fact. Well, so then the next morning I get up and I'm out here, and my brother comes out of the bedroom and he goes, "Oh my gosh, you should have seen them!" And he starts again, give me a blow by blow description of feces on my basement floor. And I looked at him and I said, "I'm so glad I wasn't here." And he started to keep going, and I was like, "I wasn't here." Like, I don't want to hear it. I wasn't here.
What was it? What was the story, part of the story you told me about that you thought was really funny? That you called me about yesterday? About Faith.
Oh, you have to. Well, yeah. So in the story that my husband gave me, he said, we found these tiny little marble turds all over the bathroom or the basement floor. He said, and Faith was at the house like 5 days last week, and that she's the only one that does those little baby marble turds. He said, so I was cleaning up Faith's turds.
I like how he pointed out Faith's.
Well, it was, to him, it was obvious. It was so obvious to him.
But I'm sorry, but like you're cleaning up poop and that's what you think about? Like, you're cleaning up poop. I'd be like, oh, that's gross. Like, I wouldn't be thinking about whose poop it is.
See, and it's funny. My husband gave me a very non-sensory description. My brother, on the other hand, gave me a sensory description of how bad it smelled, how horrible it was that was such a mess to clean up. And so it's amazing how two men looked at the situation completely differently.
I wouldn't be able to do it. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, I'd
been gagging.
Oh, please.
I'd been gagging.
Gagging is not the word. You would have been.
I'd been throwing up.
That's Jewel if there's something really bad.
Terrible. I can't. I don't do it. Nope. Bad smells.
So 2020 has been interesting. It's not catastrophic. There's nothing he did fix it for less than $100. We had to buy a couple of snakes, and he bought a new clean out drain.
Since 2020, yes, but I think the last year has been kind of crazy because you figure.
Oh, absolutely.
And I actually say year, but so you've been here for 16 years, and I think for
I've been here for 19 years.
So
19 years, 2001.
Yes, 19. Here. Yeah, so I'll be. 35.
How's your math, babe?
Well, I'll be 35. I think I'm 34. I'll be 35,
yeah.
right? So you've been here 19 years. Okay. So in those 19 years, for the most part, it's been pretty quiet.
Yes.
It hasn't been very. You've worked and you've done your stuff, and you guys have had jobs and moved and done things, but for the most part, especially in the last, I would say probably 10 since I left. It's been pretty quiet. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And in the last, Dorothy moved down here how long ago?
3 years ago.
So in the last 3 years, it's been pretty exciting. It's been pretty, you had her move down.
That's one term for it.
You had her move down and she lived with you. How long was she here?
She was in the house for 10 months.
Okay, so 10 months. So 10 months you had somebody living with you. And then she leaves.
No, wait a minute. It's not just somebody.
Well, Bobby's mom.
I had my mother-in-law living with us.
Right.
And just to put perspective in this, for the first 25 years of our marriage, my mother-in-law didn't talk to me.
Right.
So to have her under my roof was different.
Right.
Right. But not bad. Praise the Lord that it went.
You call her mom now, so
yes,
it's not bad.
Yeah. Now we get along.
Things.
Yeah, we get along great, and I do call her mom. And that's I definitely
think it's a good thing. I definitely think her being here is a good thing. I think
absolutely.
I think it has had its moments and has brought up things, and which is a good thing. So then that happened, and she was here for 10 months, and then she moves out, and then not even a year later, Tommy and I decided to move down, and then that kind of throws off your whole thing for a while, which we talked about that was a whole thing.
Couple of podcasts
that's how this came about,
right?
And now once you kind of start getting used to that, now
I was just trying to get into a routine.
She has her brother move in, which isn't a bad thing.
No,
but I'm just saying it's almost like once something Tom and I were talking about this. Once something has calmed down in your life, all of us, because the last episode we were talking about how you have been more stressed out lately, and how you worked so hard to calm down, but how things have just been thrown at you in the last 3 years a lot to kind of backtrack, I think, a little bit. But you're handling it well. I'm not saying that. I just we
Well,
were
I
talking about the
appreciate
fact
the
that
compliment.
you were that a lot's been thrown at you, you know, in the last, especially the last year.
But I mean, in all honesty, I handled it well, maybe on the outside, not so well on the outside. Let's be honest. Let's be honest.
I wasn't gonna say anything.
I was snapping at people. I had a very sharp edge to the tone of my voice. I was not handling it well. However, a week ago Thursday, I had a complete meltdown, and I mean utter complete meltdown. I felt like I was in an F5 tornado, picking up speed, ready to take out everybody and anybody in my path. And I joke you not, it was bad.
That's not true, actually. So we're gonna start with this. We're gonna start this with the story of how kind of us talking about this came about. So Mom calls me. Wyatt hasn't been feeling good. He had the flu.
And you said to me, we're going to talk about this on the podcast.
Yes, I did. And then I wasn't. And then you asked me what we're going to talk about today, and I was like, I have no idea. Here we go. So this is Jules, flying by the seat of her pants. So Wyatt had the flu. Both the kids had the flu. And Faith has recovered beautifully. She's fine. Wyatt has had a cough that has just sustained, and because of his asthma and things like that, just keeps getting aggravated. So we've been dealing with that. So Mom last week had the kids Monday through Thursday. She'd pick them up from school and then bring them here, and then I'd come and get them.
And I'm just going to interrupt you to say Wyatt was not himself. Wyatt has
Right.
more energy than the Energizer Bunny. So for
Yes.
him to fall asleep
runs
in
the
my
mouth.
car, I pick him up from the school bus and he's falling asleep in the car. He's doing his homework at the table and he's falling asleep, and he doesn't want to hurry up and do homework because he wants to play. He gets on the couch and falls asleep, and he's gray and he's coughing. I had every right to be concerned. However,
Right.
and I will also admit that you see him like this way more than I do
Well,
because
right.
you didn't live here.
Right, and that's the thing is Wyatt has been sick quite often since he was born. He's always had these issues. I've never seen a kid who's had croup as much as this kid has. I mean, he's had croup 100 times. You know what I mean? It happens every time the seasons change or he gets a cold or something, like he always ends up croupy. And it's just the way his body is and the asthma and things like that. So he's ended up quite, sick. And again, we've dealt with it. Mom didn't live by us, so she never saw it. So when she would say something to me, I'm like, yes, I know. Now, I do tend to, when he gets like this, if it gets too bad, I do tend to take him to the doctor because I want to make sure it doesn't go into his lungs. So, here's what happened.
Now that we prefaced all that.
Thursday night, which was last week, so today's
A week ago today.
Technically today's Thursday. I know we're giving this to you on Monday, but today's Thursday. So a week ago. So she calls me up, and she FaceTimed, and it had to have been like 9:30. It was like 9:30.
I love it.
Now, she had had a rough day. I picked up the kids and I left, but I didn't know, I don't really think we got to talk much, and I left, whatever, I got home. And so she says, I just wanted to call and ask about Wyatt because he was on my mind. And I was like, okay, no
exactly
problem.
what I said. I will admit to exactly what I said. Okay.
Okay, go ahead and tell them what you said.
So I said to her, Wyatt's really been on my mind and bothering me because, you read about how kids get the flu and then they get secondary infections and their lungs...
Like pneumonia.
And their lungs fill up and then they go to sleep and they don't wake up, and I just need you to go check on him and make sure he's okay. To which...
Now, how would somebody react to that? So I was like, well, now you're freaking me out. I'm like, really? And she's like, well, I didn't mean to. I'm like, yeah, but now you're freaking me out. I'm like, because now I want to get him to the hospital. I'm going to go in and get him, and I'm going to take him to the hospital. Like, I'm freaking out about this, And she's like, well, that's not my... And so Bobby was sitting on the couch next to her, and I hear him going, well, you'd have freaked me out too. And I'm like, oh. And then so she got upset, and then I was like, I'm just letting you know, Mom, that like you can't say things like that because it freaks somebody out.
Yeah.
It's the way you said it. And I'm like, and I'm trying, and I said to her, here I am trying to let her know that what she said freaked me out and could have come, and was trying to communicate.
And then I rolled into, I rolled into, you're right. It
Right.
came across wrong. I shouldn't have said it that way,
But
I was worried.
But you could. She had that where she was just about that crisp tone to her about like, yes, you're right, it was wrong, like that, like attitude.
Because I was trying not to cry.
Yes, because you were already upset, and I'm thinking to myself, crap, now I'm gonna make her cry. Like, I didn't mean to like upset her. I'm just trying to communicate that, like, you know, and now she's gonna cry, and I'm like, man. And then Bobby said something else
again.
Well,
you did make it sound like you did scare her to death.
So not to make fun of this, I'm not, but this is the funny part of the story here. So I'm sitting on the other end. My husband is sitting on the couch next to me, listening to this whole conversation go back and forth.
He can see Mom. I can't see him.
Right. So this whole conversation go back and forth, and Bobby said something, and I said something to her about, you know, I'm just trying to communicate with you, and she goes, "Yup."
Because I was trying not to
and
cry.
then like she gets up and then all of a sudden like she got up and you could tell she was walking upstairs and she hung up on me, and I was like, and my husband like, over here goes, "Oh my God, you are your mother." I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, "You do the same thing." He goes, "You get all pissy at me," and you go, "Yup, whatever." And you're like, and I'm like, oh. And I'm like, yeah, I do that. Like, I know I do. Okay, you know, like I do use the yup, you know, tone. So in hindsight, I did take him to the doctor the next day. He had just in his throat, and he's fine. He's no pneumonia or anything. But you could tell the stress level and the things that, you know, and
yeah, I had reached maximum wind speed. I was shearing trees off as I walked up the stairs.
So it wasn't here, but I actually did end up getting a brunt end of it. And it was certainly not my intention to give you any of that stress level. It was just, I really was concerned about Wyatt. So,
but in my defense, I did hang up on you. But as soon as I got upstairs,
you did,
and I was in my bed crying my eyes out because I'd had it. If there was a way that I could have gotten on a plane and gone to Bora Bora, Tahiti, I didn't care where it was. I was out of here.
Right.
I would have, because I was up to here. Actually, no, I lied. I was like up to here with life at that moment, and I won't tell you, it wasn't one specific thing. It was everything had just hit maximum level. And so I'm upstairs crying in my bed, and I realized that I did hang up on her, and she probably thinks she's the reason why I'm crying, and she's not the reason why I'm crying. She's like the icing on the cake, but she's not the reason why I'm crying. So I picked up the phone. I started texting her to say, I want you to know that you're not the reason why I was crying. Yes, I'm upset, and I do understand that, and I apologized again on the text. I'm very sorry I scared you. That was not my intention to scare you. I was concerned about Wyatt, and therefore, because I was concerned, I wanted to reach out to you so that you could check on him for me, because I was concerned.
So remember how we said a couple podcasts ago now that, like, you know, you censor things.
Oh, yeah.
That was not a censored one. Like, you know, you call somebody, you don't, when you're calling a mom about a sick kid, you really shouldn't say they could die in their sleep.
No,
I understand. I understand what
it was. Yeah, it was.
But it was one of those things where it's like,
no, I didn't hold anything
like we
back.
just said, like, oh, I'm just worried and concerned. You should check on him. You know, blah blah. Just check on him for me. I'm just concerned. That should have been the entire thing, not the kids die in their sleep. Now I'm freaking out because my kid could die. Now I'm freaking out. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I barely slept that night, thinking, oh my God, my kid's gonna die in his sleep. Like, you know what I mean? And actually, no lie, Tommy and I found Faith's stethoscope, woke this poor child up at 10:30 at night, and was checking his lungs with a stethoscope. We're not doctors. You know, I barely know what I'm looking for. The doctor once had, like, let me listen to hear when he did have pneumonia years ago. Let me listen to hear what it, you know, it had a crackling sound and stuff. But now I'm using a stethoscope and I don't know how to use a stethoscope. So I'm bang, like, you bang on both sides. You hear something on both sides. So I use it. We don't hear anything, you know, so we're thinking, okay, it's fine. Well, now I took the doctor the next day. I'm watching the guy use the stethoscope. You put your finger on the hole to listen. I didn't know that. Because there's a hole on the flat side and a hole on the smaller, you know, whatever side. And he put his finger on the hole. I'm like, that's what I did wrong. Okay, so when we were talking about what we were going to talk about this time, you said you were feeling the depression issue.
Yeah.
So that's kind of good that we started with all this, you know, stress and, you know, things like that, because I think that kind of brings us right into that topic. So even though we had no idea what we were going to talk about and you were feeling it, we didn't know how we were going to bring it up.
Yeah,
and this kind of actually works out really well. So why don't you go ahead and start, since it's your topic?
Yeah. So I've dealt with depression my whole life, and it has been different degrees of depression. Sometimes it's just a depression where I feel like there's a black cloud over me, and it's like the Peanuts cartoon where the kid that walks with the dirt and there's a dirt cloud that follows him wherever he goes. Sometimes it's like that. There have been times in my life where it's been so bad that I didn't want to get out of bed, take a shower, eat. And there was one particular time in my life that 5 weeks, I mean, I got up and I went, it's the strangest, this is what depression does to your brain and your functioning. I would get up in the morning and go to the gym, work out for 2 hours, go back home, get back in bed with the same clothes on that I went to the gym, not take a shower, not eat, drink water, get back up 7 o'clock the next morning, go to the gym, work out for 2 hours, come back, climb back in bed. And Bob was working away from home at the time, so he'd leave on either Monday morning or Sunday night, and he wouldn't come home till Friday night or Saturday. So, and this is not, I want you to know, him working out of town had absolutely nothing to do with my depression and what I was going through. It is really a real thing that people kind of like say, oh, I'm depressed. No, there's I'm depressed over a situation, and then there's depression that affects you to almost debilitate you. So I have no idea what that was.
There's a dinging, by the way.
Yeah, some kind of dinging was going on.
We're all kind of looking around like, what is that?
Like, is that a toy? What? Okay. So anyway, long story short, for 5 weeks, what I would do is 5 days a week, I would get up, go to the gym in the same clothes, come home, go to bed. And if Bob was coming home, say it's a Friday or Saturday, I'd go to the gym, come home, go back into bed. But an hour before he came home, I would get up, get a shower, straighten up the house, fix dinner. And when he would walk through the door, he didn't know anything was wrong. Like, because I would talk to him on the phone from the bed. Friends would come and knock on the door to check on me, and I would go to the door, and I wouldn't even let them in. They would be like, are you okay? And I'm like, yep. And they'll be like, what are you doing? I was like, sleeping. And they're like, well, what are you going to do this afternoon? Sleep. And they were like, well, Kathy, you can't do that. No, I can, and I'm going to. And there's probably been 2 really that severe depression in my life where it's debilitated me. And but I do fight it.
I was gonna say, what brings you out of it? Like what
you know, I believe that what snapped me out of that one was friends that just refused to give up. Just refused to give up. I would have Marie or Lori, they were knocking on my door, they were calling, they were, come on, get out of the house, let's do this, let's do that. And they prayed over me. You know, depression is a spirit, and it's the spirit of depression. And so I was so low that I was inside my high top shoes and I couldn't even look out the top of my shoes. That's how low in the pit I was. And then praying for me and praying over me made a huge difference. And I think that had they left me to myself, it wouldn't have lasted 5 weeks. It could have lasted 5 months. And so fast forward, so that was 2012, the last one, the last severe one that I had. I always know that when I get stressed out, there's a possibility it can come back. And I don't want to say I'm smart enough, because I don't think smarts has anything to do with it. I think that I recognize the symptoms more easily now than I ever did before. When you backslide off of a diet, which I have so much dragged that wagon out in the yard and burnt and set it on fire. But when you backslide on a diet, it starts with one extra something. Or it like for me, I'm going to use me as an example. If I am on my food plan and I'm doing great and I don't do carbs, for me, starting the backslide is, well, I'm only going to have a tablespoon of rice. You know? And so because I'm only going to have a tablespoon of rice, it's okay.
Right.
So then I start to backslide a little bit more. Well, it's okay if I have dessert today because I didn't have dessert all week. So it's okay if I have dessert today. And one decision goes into another. And I use that as an example because what happens with depression is it's one step at a time. So
It doesn't happen overnight.
it doesn't.
happens.
It doesn't like. It
Right.
doesn't. I don't wake up one morning and say, "Oh, I'm depressed." It's
Right.
not like that.
Exactly.
It's self-care, and it's self-awareness of knowing that Marie. I love Marie. She's like, think about what you're thinking about, and that is so good because if you think about what you're thinking about, the minute you start to have depressive thoughts, which for me is self-centeredness. And I know that that sounds really weird, but it's the only word I've been trying to think about describing what depression feels like. Your circle gets smaller and smaller and smaller until the only thing you can think about is self.
Right.
And you start with isolation. You start saying no to things that you normally bring you joy.
Right.
And things you want to do. And all of a sudden, those things that you love to do don't bring you joy anymore. So then you cut out that one thing. And then you cut out another thing. And then you cut out another thing to the point where the things that used to bring you joy used to be this many things. And now you're down to this many things. And then you're
to
down.
the point where the only thing that brings you joy is being in that bed.
Correct. Correct.
Right.
But the good news is that I have become more self-aware of, and that's why I needed that Tuesday out of the house.
Right.
Because what I had realized is that friends had invited me to different women's functions, and I gave the excuse, I'm too tired. And see, that's another symptom for me, is that if I'm tired all the time, then I need to examine not physically what's wrong with me, because I'm really healthy. But if I'm tired all the time, then what is the root of my exhaustion? Is it because most of the time it's thought exhaustion?
Right.
It's mind exhaustion. It's not physical exhaustion. It's mind exhaustion.
Right.
So what I noticed recently, especially after last Thursday's complete utter F5 tornado meltdown, was that I had cut so much of the things out of my life that were joy to me because I was quote unquote tired, exhausted, too much, don't want to drive at night, which is so stupid because I never have a problem driving at night. But in my head, it was like, oh, I got to drive at night. I don't even know where that came from because I don't have a problem driving at night. But and I want you to know that I fought tooth and nail on Tuesday to go and stay out. Everything in me screamed not to go or to go to one out of three things and not continue. But having lunch with Robin brings me such joy. Hanging out with Narelle gives me such joy. Hanging out with Nikki and learning about anything makes me happy. I am the perpetual student. If I took you upstairs into my bedroom, not only do I have a full bookcase of all the books that I have read, but I have piles of books lined up for me to read because I can't be out of books. It's like a thing for me.
I don't really read books.
If I get down to
I can't bring myself to read a book.
If I get down to 2 books that are left to read, I got to go get more books. It's like a thing. So I do realize that the joy that I have from learning was also in the pit, so to speak. So for me to stay out Tuesday all day long and force myself to stay out, force myself to go to the next event and the next, even knowing I would get home at 10:30 at night and have to drive an hour from Concord back to Statesville, I pushed through. And I want you to know that the difference in how I felt when I got home Tuesday night, my joy was back. And I was able to, today's Thursday, so for 2 days, I've had my joy back.
Yeah. I mean, I can relate because I tend to be the same way. Like, the last 3 days, I'm in the house. It's not that I'm depressed, but like you said, it's like, I use the excuse of I don't want to use gas, so I just don't leave the house. But then I got out of the house yesterday to do grocery shopping with the kids. And while it's a little stressful, they actually were really good. And I enjoyed getting out of the house. And it when you're in the house for 2 days because you have nothing else to really do, and again, I don't want to use the gas money, whatever. I just use that as an excuse, whatever. But it just makes it like, oh, crap. And then to get out of the house, it almost like refreshes you. You get the fresh air and, things like that. And I know that that is how it should be. But again, there are like days and weeks where it's like I just don't want to leave the house. I don't want to do anything. And I say it's my comfort zone, and it is because of what's in my head. You know what I mean? Because of maybe a depression and stuff like that. And you know, I've had this conversation with people, and there are people who have the depression and they tend towards the suicide. I've had people in my life who have chosen that route, and I don't know how or why, but like, you know, we do tend to recognize and are able to bring ourselves out of it. And I have never had the thoughts of wanting to kill myself, which I'm very thankful for. When I was in college, which you know this story, when I was in college and Grandpa had passed away, that was probably one of the worst ones I ever had. Because for one, it was Grandpa. For two, I've never really had anybody pass away, and I wasn't home at the time, and so
and you couldn't get home.
I couldn't get home because it was foggy. My dad didn't want me to drive. It was late at night, and by the time they told me, you know, and everything it was too late, and so it was a helplessness that I couldn't get home, and so and then I wasn't, you know, I just wasn't there. So anyway, so the boyfriend I had at the time, when I got back to school, my grades dropped. I would be happy one minute, you know, because you're happy, but then you realize what's going on and you're sad again, and you know, whatever. And he had convinced me that I was bipolar because I kept going from happy to sad and happy to sad, and he convinced me I was bipolar.
Right.
The saddest part about this is, and I think this is why I have the thoughts that I do about doctors and things like that, because I went to it's a psychiatrist. I went to a psychiatrist because they can do medication. So a psychiatrist, and all I had to do was say, I this, and this, and the guy prescribed me a whole bunch of medicine. You didn't even talk to me. I didn't see anybody else. There wasn't like I was seeing a therapist for a long time and then he got a recommendation. I just went in and I said, I have this, and this, and he gave me medicine. To me, I thought it was odd and I didn't like it at the time. I took the medications. Within 2 weeks of taking the medications, I was in the hospital because they had adverse effects because I didn't need them. And Dad came to get me from college, and I was supposed to go and live with that boyfriend for the summer. And Dad came, and we got into another fight and all this stuff, whatever. And I was like, oh, I gotta go get that medication. And my father was sat in the parking lot, and he looked at me. He goes, "Do you really need it?" And I looked at him and said, "No." He goes, "Okay." I've never touched another one again a day in my life. And I have just had a very strong opinion about the fact that I, for me personally, can bring myself out of it. Do I get in those slumps and things like that, and where the dishes pile up and you know, I don't clean and I'm just in my pajamas and I'm on the couch instead of in the bed, but you know, whatever. Yeah. And they last for a couple of days. It doesn't last for, you know. And I think what brings me out is having the kids and having Tommy and knowing that people rely on me. And it's not just about me. And while self-care is important, having those responsibilities helps me to kind of get out of my own way and bring myself out of a fog or a slump. And knowing that it affects the kids. Like, you know, I don't want them to grow up being like, well, mom was depressed all the time, or mom was this all the time, or, you know, whatever. So I try to, you know, use them to help me. And to me, I mean, for me, it works. And I know it doesn't work for everybody. And I know there are people who need the medications and have to have them. And that's fine. I don't have any opinions about that. It's not a judgment. I don't judge them. That's on them. And I've had that conversation where, like, you know, somebody's like, oh, I have to take that's fine. No problem with that. You know what I mean? For me, it's just not a thing for me because for one, it has adverse effects on me. And, you know, to me, I don't have an imbalance. I think the human race gets depressed, especially in today's day and age. Oh, I'm not good enough, or I don't make enough money, or my job's not good enough, or, right, you know, I'm not the best mom, or, you know, actually, here's a great topic. And I know this is kind of...
Okay, let me just comment one thing before you roll into something else.
Well, yeah, okay.
Okay. What I want you to know is that twice in my life, my depression was so bad that I've had suicidal thoughts.
Right.
But the one thing that I was very concerned about when you did get depressed in college was that I had somehow and because at the time, those
Right.
2 times in my life, I still had you kids. And when that depression got so black, I really believed that you guys were better off without me.
Right.
But when you also later in life developed depression in college,
Right.
I was extremely concerned that either I had genetically passed that on to you, or by being around me had passed that on to you. And I was so concerned that I prayed for you every single night that you had that depression, that you wouldn't have suicidal thoughts, that
Right.
you wouldn't give up. And what I'm hearing you now, I'm so grateful to know that yours has never been as severe as mine was.
Right.
And that you have learned tools to get out of it, and that you use your kids to as an instrument of and a tool
Right.
to get out of it, where having my children and loving them beyond
Right.
didn't help me at that time.
Because I think I've come to the mindset that technically suicide, and I know that it sounds bad, but suicide is selfish.
It is very
because,
selfish.
and I get the state of mind that they're in, and I'm not I'm not lessening that at all. But for me, it's selfish because I'm taking away my pain, but I'm causing everybody around me pain.
Correct.
And that is selfish. I get that I'm taking away, and it's a season in life, and that's kind of what I tell myself is whatever I'm in at that moment, it's a season in life, and it will change. And that's kind of what I try to instill in the kids too, is like no matter what they're going through or whatever, like it's a season, like it's gonna change, it's not gonna stay forever. But trying to leave this life on purpose is just all you're gonna do is cause pain to everybody around you, and that's just not, it's not right. You know what I mean? It's one thing to die in an accident or to die, obviously from something else, but to purposely hurt yourself and do it, it just makes, it hurts everybody. So going back a little bit to this whole judging people, whatever, and I know we're switching topics, but I think it has to do with it.
Okay.
Because this is kind of, so I'm in mom groups and stuff, and in 2020, it's supposed to be like, oh, the Me Too movement, or, whatever, the women movements, and all this, we support women and this and that. Yet almost every single day, somebody posts in these mom groups. And I think it was a lady who was like, has anybody else gotten their taxes and stuff like that? And it's like, some people rely on that. Some people, they don't make a lot of money, and they wait all year to get the taxes to do something. Maybe take their kids on vacation, or maybe buy extra groceries, or
pay off a credit card.
Pay off bills, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it might be, So this lady was asking, and instead of people being like, oh no, or just simply answering the question, people started attacking her because oh my God, right? And it's like, why are we attacking each other? I don't understand what it is about any of it that seems that we should attack each other.
Right.
Because just because I parent differently doesn't mean you should attack me.
What I find is that this empowering Me Too moment has not strengthened women's bonds with each other. It's actually tearing them down.
Mm-hmm. I just think, like, whether you breastfeed, you bottle feed. Whether you let your kids watch TV or you don't watch it, whatever the case may be, what's happening is that you're tearing people down. Like, with this podcast, you know what I mean? I had that one video and people were, being nasty about it, and it made me feel like crap. And it's like, instead of just give your opinion. But don't give your opinion that it's tearing somebody down. Because you're personally attacking them. You don't know their life. You don't know their situations. No matter what you think you see on social media, no matter what they think that they're posting on Facebook or this or that, you don't know what goes on. And that's what like the whole Kobe Bryant and people having opinions about everything. That's just thing. I mean, I live by the saying, opinions are like assholes. We all have one.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean it's a good thing.
Right.
Like, I mean, come on. Like, it's your opinion. It's not facts. It's not real life. You have to keep your opinions to yourself unless it's just an answering a question. Right. Don't, attack people. Because, again, that's what causes people to be in depression. And that's what, in high schools and middle school, I mean, it's happening, little kids. it's bullying. No matter if it's your opinion and whatever you're saying about these mothers, you're bullying them. And bullying leads to suicide and depression and things like that. And that we're going in the opposite direction than we should have because of
social media. But social media makes everybody brave.
Right.
Because there are things that people are posting on comments on Facebook that they would never say to your face.
Never say to your face, no.
Never say, but
No.
being on social media where you cannot engage in a one-on-one discussion of intelligence, just these word wars back and forth. You can afford to be sassy, you can afford to be nasty, you can afford to be condescending or attacking someone because you're not doing it face to face. In a previous podcast, we talked about how people think they have 3,000 friends. You don't have 3,000 friends.
Right.
If your life was upside down and you put on social media, I need help, I probably, if you're lucky, you can count on one hand how many people are going to show up.
Right.
They're not your friends.
Right.
But in that also know is it that people are awfully brave with their fingers.
The words, right.
Yes, because they can get away with it. Nobody's going to
Right.
knock on your door
For instance,
and say and say, "Hey, why don't you come outside and say that to me?"
Right. So for perfect instance, there was these two girls, I think they're on Modern Family, and they went to an award show or something, and one of them wore a little black dress and, whatever. And instead of saying that she looked great and she's a woman and, empowering her, of what she was wearing, they were all tearing her down. Now, I'm not gonna lie, because I'm sure Kayla's looking at me, because I was literally just saying about a girl who was on Instagram and what she was wearing, but she was wearing a little, it was bathing suits barely covering. That's what I was talking about. When you wear a little black dress, that's a little different. And I wasn't tearing her down. I was just like, oh my gosh, girl, what are you wearing? And I would never actually comment. Like, again,
you would
I
say it
have
to
my
yourself.
opinion.
Right.
I don't say it, out loud.
Right.
And again, I'm entitled to an opinion. I'm not entitled to tear somebody down. I would never go on that girl's thing and say, oh my God, what are you wearing? You look like a
Hoochie
whatever.
mama.
A hoochie mama. Yeah, I was
Right.
gonna say hoe bag, but it's cool.
Same thing.
But I mean, I wasn't thinking those things. I mean, that's not even what I was thinking. I was just like, oh my gosh, girl, what are you wearing? And again, I say that as a mom. I would never want my daughter wearing that on social media. Like, you know what I'm saying? But again, I would never. To me, I think we need to start keeping our opinion. And I think people. This is the other thing. I think that these commenters comment because they want to get follows. So they think the more harsh and more crazy they are, they get follows. But all they're doing is tearing somebody's, body apart or their character or whatever, and hurting them and causing them to go into a depression, especially when you get millions of them. Teens who are, Faith would love to get into be, whatever, and be on TV. And while I want to encourage her and what she wants to do, it terrifies me because I don't want her to be a teen star who gets into drugs because they've had all these people around them saying things about them to where they have to turn to drugs to make themselves feel better.
Right.
And yes, I mean, my parenting would be part of it, and I'd be involved. But it doesn't matter sometimes how much parents are involved. No. It's just what they do. It's there and they do it, you know.
They're going to be exposed to
Right,
it.
they're exposed. And I just, while I can come out of a depression, I know for a fact if people start attacking me personally, yes, I'm heavy right now. And if you start attacking how heavy I look right now, I am going to just totally and utterly fall apart.
Right.
Because it's what happens, you know what I mean? And I can only imagine what those people are going through, and I don't know. I mean, right now, I don't have any outside sources causing me depression, so I know what can bring me out of it, but if I start bringing in things that I can't control, it'd be a lot different.
Well, I really believe that all my life I didn't have close women friends because I couldn't trust them. Growing up, whatever friends I had in high school or even afterwards, you told them a secret and everybody knew it, or they used it against you, or they stabbed you in the back, or they weren't loyal. And it wasn't until we moved to North Carolina that I literally prayed in good friends. And I'm not kidding. I prayed, God, please bring me good Christian women friends. And he did. And I'm so grateful for that. But it's through those women who, no matter what I say to them, will they tell me the truth about it? Absolutely. But they also are supportive and love my uglies.
Right.
You know what I mean? No matter what, I say off the wall or whatever, but they're constantly building me up. Not once have I ever had a conversation with Marie, Robin, Keisha, or Tammy and not have them, and Darrell, absolutely, and not have them lift me up after they correct me with love. You know what I mean? But the truth is that we need more of that. We need more women out there who are going to straighten your crown and not give you a beef about it.
Right. Exactly. So, Monday nights, I think, okay, so conversation here we're going to have.
Yes.
So Monday nights.
Yes.
Every other Monday. So Monday mornings, we put out a podcast every other. I think the opposite Monday nights,
Well,
I think we should
in
do.
Florida. So we can't, if we do it
So
this Monday.
Well, no, when we're in Florida, we'll have this one will go up.
Okay. All right,
Okay.
so
every other Monday.
I bet, I'm sorry.
Every other Monday night, I think we should do the live.
Okay.
So that way, 1 week we're on YouTube and 1 week we're live.
Okay.
How's that sound?
Terrifying.
That's a great idea. I
Right.
know. I'm gonna say great idea and I'm gonna lie to your face, but
Terrifying, actually, but yes.
I know, because how do we have a conversation when people are watching us? I have no idea.
Well, the good news
this
is
is
that
pre-recorded, so
it'll
it's great.
scroll and then people can comment and the conversation can
Right.
go to those questions or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what people want to watch. We need you guys to watch us. Watch
You know-
us. Go on Facebook. Go on Instagram. Follow us. Share, please.
Yes, and please subscribe to our
Yes,
YouTube
YouTube.
channel. Right now, we probably have 100 views per podcast, but only 20 subscribers. If you're watching, please subscribe to
Yes.
it.
We want to hear from you guys. You know, we think your opinions are very important, and we want to hear from you. We're not famous. We're nobody important, but we think we have good things to say.
And we also
We're important to our families.
correct, and we right, but we also want to make sure that we're covering things that are relevant to you, that are touching you, that are helping you. So please give feedback because it is important to us. We want to do better.
Because most likely, if you've gone through it, we've gone through it, or somebody else has gone through it, and they can help too. So, any topic, all topics, anything like that. I don't have a funny story this week. I mean, I do. I just can't tell it. So.
Did your husband put the screws to your mouth? Saying no more talking?
No, actually, something did happen, and he was like, "Is this going to go on the podcast?" And I was like, "Oh my god, I wish it could," because it was hilarious. I mean, we both died laughing, but it's not appropriate.
Okay.
So I can't. We died laughing.
All right.
He looked at me in the middle of it and was like, "Are you just going to go on the podcast?" And I was like, "No, because it can't." But I wish it could. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for being here for a latte perspective, and tune in next time.
Right. To a latte more perspective. Join, subscribe, all that kind of
Yes,
stuff.
and like
follow
our,
us.
like our Facebook page. Do help us out here.
This podcast is brought to you by the Cedar Stump Pubs. Statesville location is at 3442 East Broad Street. Troutman location is at 152 South Main. Remember, every Friday we have music bingo from 9 to 11 p.m. Every Saturday night, live music from 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. We're open till 2 a.m. Come rest your rump at the stump.